All right, so we are now on 7-1. We are getting into multiplying 2-digit by 2 digits. So the same rules apply when we're dealing with multiples of 10 because it's still multiplying by 1. So if I were to start with, let's say, like 10 times 18, I'm still just focusing on 18 times 1. 18 times 1 is 18. And now I'm just adding on that 0 afterwards, so I have 180. I'm just adding a 0. Same thing with 10 times 24. 24 times 1 is 24. Then I just tack on that 0, 240.
I like this lesson.
Okay? It is no different than what we've done before. The only thing is, instead of having 8 times 10, it's now 18. Now, here's an issue though. It's not really an issue, but it's taking it up a notch. So now if I'm dealing with, let's say, 30 times 16. Okay, there are 2 ways that I can solve this. 30 times 16, I can do it mentally, I can do it halfway mentally, or I could do it the full-on work it out. So I'm going to show you first. Here's the full-on work it out. I use the break apart method. I'm going to underline it like I've done before. And I'm going to break apart my double digit that has numbers higher than 0 in it. So anything in the 30s, any multiple of 10 stays put. 30 times 10 plus 30 times 6. And then I add them up. 30 times 10 is 300. 6 times 3 is 18, plus 1 more is 180. And then I add them up. 0 plus 0 is 0. 8, 4, 480. Now, here's another way. Here's what halfway mental math looks like. It means I'm going, okay, so I basically need to do this bit by bit. So if I go, okay, so 30 times 10 is 300. And then 3 times 6 is 180. So what I'm going to do, okay, so 300, I might just go, okay, so 300 plus 180, kind of write it above there in a small way, just so I could see it. And then I go, okay, so 300 and 180, okay, so that becomes 480. So I'm not doing all the steps. I'm just doing a little bit on top. Or that could just be done entirely in my head. But sometimes, like for me, even if I'm doing it in my head, it helps for me to just write it down as I go to hold myself accountable and kind of keep on track. So I'm going to keep showing you the different ways. We're going to keep doing some practice, okay?
Okay.
So let's look at 20 times 15. This I can do mentally because what I'm going to focus on is I'm going to go, okay, well, 15 times 2, double 15. I know what double 15 is. That is 30. Okay, now I just need to add on my 0. There's my answer, 300. 10 times 27. That, super simple. Tack on a 0, 270. It's the same thing we've been doing. This was like all of the beginning of Unit 6 was just multiplying with 10 and 100 and adding those zeros to the end. What about 20 times 12? So what I'm going to focus on is 12 times 2. So in my head, here's what the partial mental math can look like. Doubling, I can easily do, especially when the numbers are under 5, because then that means they're not turning into a 2-digit number when they're doubled. So double 2 is 4. Double 1 is 2. So double 12 is 24. Add on my 0, 240. There we go.
Wait, but then how is 24 times 10 242? What?
We'll come back to that. Just because it's different numbers doesn't mean you're going to have different answers every time.
Oh.
24 times 10 is 24. Add a 0 becomes 240. 20 times 12,
I thought it was the same thing.
nope, different numbers.
Oh.
So just because I have the same answers doesn't mean that I'm doing it wrong. It just shows how numbers can equal the same things when they're moved around.
Oh, sorry. I thought it was the same.
All right. Where am I? 20 times 23. So basically, in my head, I'm going to try and do 20 times 20 and 20 times 3. So I can kind of do it partially, or maybe I can go, 23 times 2, I can just double that. Those are both under 5. That's simple. So double 3 is 6, double 2 is 4. Tack on my 0, 460. Yep.
Can you do it the other way?
So the other way, if I'm still having a hard time, because my brain is just not a happy math brain, and I spent the entire morning at Gabriella Mistral carrying large packages, and I'm tired. Sometimes I need an easier route because my brain's like, ugh, seriously? Math? Now? Come on. I understand. I get like that too. So here's how we break it down. 20 times 23 becomes 20 times 20, and 20 times 3. 20 times 20 is basically saying, what's 2 times 2? 4. Add on my 2 zeros, 400. Because I did 2 times 2 and then added each of their zeros back in. Or I could do 20 times 2 is 40, add on that other 0, 400. When I am multiplying numbers that end in 0, I add the 0 back in there. I focus on only the beginning. So if I have 20 times 20, I can just go, okay, so what's 2 times 2? 2 times 2 is 4. Now add on that 0, add on that 0, 400. That's one way to do it. I can also do, if I have 20 times 20, I could go, okay, 20 times 2 is 40. Add on my 0. I feel like I'm making football things here with all these X's and O's and arrows. But I hope that makes sense. Whenever you're dealing with zeros, you can take them out and just look at the first part and then add those zeros back in later.
I'm gonna write this so I know what this
Go for it. That's what it's for. So 20 times 20 is 400, and then 20 times 3, 2 times 3 is 6. Add on my 0, 60. Then I add it up. 0 plus 0, 0 plus 6, and 4.
46.
Okay?
So 0 would equal 4.
Last one. 30 times 21. So, once again, I'm going to do 21 times 3, or I could break it down. Once we get into the 3s, because this one is so small, I can do that. 21 times 3. Well, 1 times 3 is 3. 2 times 3 is 6. Add on my 0, 630. If I were to break it apart, it would become 30 times 20 plus 30 times 1. 3 times 2 is 6. Add my zeros back in, 600. 30 times 1 is 30. Add them up.
3 times.
Excuse me, she's asking me a question.
Instead of writing 30 times 20 and 30 times 1, can you do it in your head?
Absolutely, you can do it in your head. You have 3 different ways that you can do it. You can halfway do it, where you just kind of write smaller answers on top that you know you're going to add. You could just do it entirely in your head, or you can work it out. Every problem is going to have a different way that you can solve it. There are some that I am super confident in solving mentally in my head without any work. There are some that, you know what, I need a visual to kind of help me stay on track. And there's some that I'm like, I don't know what on earth I'm doing right now. I need to break this apart because this is too big for me to handle. Every problem is going to be a little different, which is why we have all these different strategies to help us do them. Okay?